Hello, and welcome to the Experience Podcast. I am Neil Miller, and to my right is, I'll let you introduce yourselves.
My name is Dennis Miller.
And our guest is?
I am Lauren Herman.
You can explain a little bit about yourself and as far as where people can reach out to you.
Okay. Explain myself. Okay. Well, you can find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Lauren Herman. I think it'll be in the description box. How to spell my name. And as far as about myself, I am a massage therapist, healing facilitator, light worker. Describe myself.
Okay, cool.
We'll just leave it at that for now.
Sure.
I guess you'll get more about me as this goes on.
Absolutely. Our core values for this podcast are facts, inspiration, empowerment, and transformation. And that is really the goal of this podcast. Those are the core values of the Experience Podcast. I believe you wanted to take something on.
Yeah, well, I've known Lauren for about 4 years, I think, 5 years maybe. And it's been an interesting journey. Like, I've known you for a while, and we've both gone through some interesting things in her. I mean, I think you have an incredible story. Very powerful story. A story that people can learn from and be inspired, and that a story that will give people hope, for sure. Like, I've been anticipating this podcast all week, so I'm very, very excited. So I'm just going to let you take it from here, Lauren.
Okay, so my story is some people would think recovering. Some people call themselves recovering addicts. But I feel like I call myself a recovered addict because I like to put a cap on that. Like, I don't still do the things I used to do.
Sure.
Recovering, I don't know, just sounds like there's no end to that process, and maybe I'm wrong. And
It does sound like a ongoing process.
I mean, I guess it is an ongoing process, but in reference to the things that I used to do, I don't do those things anymore. So
then that label wouldn't even apply at that point. Like, none of
the label of an addict. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
See,
Now
I'm going to backtrack on what I said, because addicts or addiction goes outside of just substance abuse, which is that's what I was addicted to, was heroin, and some other things, mostly heroin and crack cocaine. And addiction can go outside of that. Addiction isn't just substances. Addiction can be anything. You can be addicted to anything.
Can you elaborate on that, how addiction can be anything and how it doesn't necessarily just go with substances?
I mean, you can be addicted to food. You can be addicted to good and bad things. Addiction doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. You can be addicted to exercise. You can be addicted to helping people. You can be addicted to really anything.
That's a worthwhile point to make, how it's not necessarily a bad addiction. It can be a good addiction that you have.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a negative connotation. So now I almost want to retract that very first statement that I made, because I have been addicted to other things, you know. And where do I want to go with this?
As far as being addicted to other things.
Yeah, like my addiction, I feel like I've recovered from the addiction, the negative addiction, the unhealthy addictions to substances. I have, or to, you know, I feel like there are some substances, my brain's going a lot of different directions all at once. And some people look at all substances and they classify them as bad. Some people say like, well, some are bad, some are not so bad, you know, and we do have substances that can have very positive effects.
Such as,
You know, cannabis can have positive effects. Psychedelics can have positive effects. However, they can also be abused just like anything else can. So, and I've been there with those substances, you know. I just recently realized that like I was starting to have a problem with those substances as well. Like myself some space from all of that. Just kind of letting myself clean out and really like, I don't know.
space is a good point to make about how taking a break and giving yourself some space and taking a moment and just looking at where you've come from and where you are right now, that it's kind of calling a timeout on yourself. And I feel like it's a very important thing to do.
It is. Yeah.
It's like fasting.
What's that?
It would just like fasting. Like that's one example of space where you give your body space to rejuvenate.
Recalibrate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to step away and like put it down for a minute and just like let yourself reground, right? Like take stock of where you are and be like, do I need these things the way that I've been using them, or can I change my relationship with it and still move forward with them in a different way? Like that's where I am, you know. I don't necessarily I don't think they're bad. I would never shame anybody for like those. Like I don't do that anymore, so I can't hang out with people. That's not where I'm at. I still appreciate these substances, and I still I look at them as tools. So I can't really say one way or another if I'll completely like put them down and never use them again, you know. It's just how you use things.
Sure.
That's key.
So you mentioned a tool. How are they tools to you as far as substances, and what do you mean by that? So
the ones that I guess those that I'm referring to specifically would be LSD, psilocybin. I have used DMT, not quite as much, but I've had a few experiences with it. Cannabis, I've been smoking weed since I was 15, 16. And those are mainly what I use now. And I feel like it's pretty well known that cannabis it can be used medicinally. Like people are using it. It's becoming so common now. Everybody's using it for all kinds of things.
Sure.
So I guess that's kind of self-explanatory, but psychedelics, to me, I use them ceremonially. I think that's the proper way to use them. To take a deeper look at yourself and the actions that you're taking in your daily life. I feel like psychedelics open you up and show you
When you're talking about you, what do you mean?
in general. I say you in general, me, just when a person, generally speaking, again, I don't know, I guess everybody has their own experience with them. But when psychedelics, I look at my life, I look at my actions, my relationships with people, with anything. Relationships are, but I look at how I'm showing up in the world, what I'm doing in my daily life, how I'm interacting with people and life in general. And I ask myself questions, am I aligning with my purpose here, what I want to be doing, where I want to be going? Am I showing up as the person that I want to be showing up as?
Sure. So I want to bring up the definition of a tool. A tool is a device or a implement, especially one held in the hand, used to carry out a particular function. In this case of talking about psychedelics, what function do psychedelics show to you, and what function do they uncover in your life?
Again, they kind of help me take a step back. It's like they bring me out of my head, out of my like thinking mind, like a 10,000-foot view. I can see the big picture. They show me again where I've been, what I've been doing, what path I'm on, where I'm going, and they help me. They just help me to like help. They have helped me to make different choices.
Sure.
So they have helped me to completely transform my life by taking different actions in my everyday. They've helped me like what's the word I'm looking for? Just change. I can't even think of the word, but they've helped me change my thoughts. They've helped me look at my behaviors, not just on the outside, but on the inside. They've helped me look at my thought patterns, my ways of thinking, my anxieties, my fears, my, where my depression comes from. I've had a history of both anxiety and depression. So they've helped me look at where those things are coming from. They've helped me go backward in my life, in my experiences, and pinpoint like, this, say, when I was a child, someone said something or did something to me, and that's a memory that I've been stuck with, which has then caused me like develop a way of behavior or a way of thinking.
Sure.
That doesn't serve me.
So on that, that memory that you had from your childhood, would you say that would be in your conscious mind or in your subconscious mind? Is it kind of in the background, or is it in the forefront of your thought that it's causing the behavioral change?
Most of it is subconscious, so like maybe the memory is more conscious, because I can like think back on my life and I'll think of like it's a conscious, I think back to a specific event, and that's conscious. Behavior that is caused from that has been, most of the time, has been subconscious.
That's interesting. So the memory itself is more conscious, while the behavior is more being produced by the subconscious.
Which would be. Go ahead.
So I can remember, like, throughout my life, there have always been these like conscious memories that have come up, and it's always been the same ones. Like, I can think back and I just remember the same event. I'll recall the same event, like I'll recall it one day, and then 2 years later I'll think back and recall the same thing, right?
Sure.
Then, but before, in the past, I didn't know that there was anything attached to that. I thought it was like, oh, this is just a thing that I remember happening, and it's no big deal. Then, fast forward to now, or the last couple of years, as I've really been diving into myself and starting to do this healing work, which isn't always, it's not always associated with the psychedelics. Like, we can do this work without the assistance of psychedelics.
In what way?
So as I'm doing this healing work on myself, I'm then looking into the behavior part. I'm looking into, oh, I have this anxiety, this thing triggered me, but why does this situation trigger anxiety? And as I'm looking into those anxieties, or whatever the feeling is or the emotion is, it then takes me back to be one of those conscious memories that I didn't think had any effect on me, but really it had a very profound effect on me and has caused me to act a certain way for my entire life.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
It does. It's
Very much so.
In Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, he's got a powerful story about that. In the book called How to Change Your Mind, or something like that. But anyways, he shares a story about this little child that's going on an airplane for the first time ever. And it's like a 2-year-old, let's just say a 2-year-old girl, right? With her parents, and they're getting up there, and first time, she's all excited. First time on a plane, she's just ecstatic, right? And she comes up, they get inside the plane, she's looking over, and she sees these big first class seats, luxurious, awesome. And she's like, hey, mommy, daddy, I'm gonna have a seat here. And as she says that, her dad yanks up her arm, and he tells her that we will never be able to afford that. So the rest of that child's, from that moment on, not only will it cause an imprint in her subconscious brain, but he yanked her at the same time on her arm. So now she has emotional trauma tied to that until she heals that. Now, do you have any, you mentioned healing modalities. Are there ways that we can do that with what you know and with what you've been studying? Are there ways that we can heal trauma like that? Like for our listeners, like the people that are listening, is there ways that we may be going about things and we're not aware of it? Like,
So, I think I know what you're trying to ask. There are many ways to heal traumas, and like the physical trauma as well. He yanked on her arm, right?
okay.
And maybe he didn't like yank it out of socket or like pull it. Maybe he didn't damage any muscles. But if that could still have an effect. Our bodies hold on to traumas like that. So if he, maybe he yanked on her arm and that caused her to tense up and guard against that force, that can get held in that spot. So in massage, a lot of times when I'll be working on someone and like memories can come up, emotions can come up. You have a significant physical trauma to the body that will get held in the tissues. Your tissues hold memory. So, you can have a trauma from when you're a child that gets held in your body and you don't know it's there until someone starts poking and prodding and moving things around, and that trauma can get released.
That's incredible.
Into the body. Same thing with emotional trauma. If you have a significant emotional trauma, that will get stored in your body. We hold different emotions in different ways, different areas of the body. Body wants to protect you from any sort of pain. And so when, say like a child in a very abusive household, they're going to learn to guard themselves ways, and it's going to be different for each person. But your body, like, you develop these holding patterns, and that's why some people are just like are to think about, if you're going to protect yourself, you contract. You cross your body, or you cross your arm, or you try to like protect your vital organs, your heart space. If you think of the chakras, those energetic spaces, like you're trying to block and keep things out of your space, out of your emotional space. And so heal those traumas. If it's a physical trauma, some sort of physical therapy. And like exercise counts, literal physical therapy, like go to a physical therapist, and you would do strength training or stretching or whatever you would have to do to like get range of motion back into your body. Emotional traumas, counseling or therapy where you're going to a therapist and you're talking about it is one way. Meditation is huge to find where the traumas are coming from. Energetic healing, either on yourself or going to a facilitator and having them do the energetic work on you. But to get to the root of those causes, willing to get there and with, because it takes a lot of work, not just a quick thing. I've been on my healing journey for roughly 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, it's an everyday thing, and it's a never ending process. There is no end to it till the day you die and transform and go to the next life. And even then, we've got traumas that pass from one life to the next. It's not just like, oh, you were born in this life and that's when your traumas began. Like, trauma can perpetuate through lifetimes, through cycles, and it's a lot of work. you have to be willing to ask yourself the questions, and you have to be willing to face the answers. It's not always easy. It is not easy. It takes accountability. It can be really fucking uncomfortable. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that here, but
You can say anything you want.
it's not an easy task, but it is most important work you will ever do in your life, and it's the most rewarding.
Sure.
And that's why I got so much respect for you, Lauren, because like I've seen you put in the work. Like that's absolutely phenomenal. Something that I was just thinking about when you were saying that, how you were talking about the questions, and I was thinking about the state of the world, like how everything is at the moment. You know, it's like there's a lot of people that seem like they don't have a sense of direction or purpose, or it seems as if they're running away from themselves at times. Like with number like self-evaluation, like what can you say to those people that are listening that do want to, they know that there's something within themselves that they want to change, but they don't know where to start. Like what is something that you can tell them that, okay, this is the start of your healing? Like
What is a solution you can
Yes.
recommend?
So that's a really great question. So like the very beginning, like where do you begin is seeking out other, it can be hard to do too. I was gonna say seeking out others who are doing this work, which isn't always easy to find if you don't even know what the work is. So looking into different healing modalities, starting with meditation is a great place. And something to remember, not even just related to healing, but if you're looking for any answers about anything, like when you seek, you will find, like in any area of life, like if
That's
you want
very
answers,
important.
you seek and you will find the answers. You just have to ask the questions. The universe will give you what you need. So you just get on Google and be like, how do I heal? And you're going to start getting the things that you need. And listening to your intuition is a big part of it too. So, anywhere that you feel drawn, like, oh, I think I need to read this article, even if you don't know why. It could just be, it's just like this poll. You're like, I don't know, I feel like I need to read this, or I feel like I need to talk to this person, or I feel like I need to watch this video or learn more about this thing. If there's, there's like a ping, if you are reading something and you're like, oh, this modality sounds really interesting and I think I need to learn more, go with that, listen to that, and eventually, like, you'll just start drawing in everything you need for your healing journey.
Sure. So you mentioned meditation. Could you mention a specific way along with a set time? Is there a set time of how long you should meditate? What is a beginning stage? Is there music to listen to? What kind of position is the body in? Explain to someone who does not know, who knows the word meditation and does know nothing else about it. Explain how you go about to meditate and everything that goes along with it.
One of my favorite topics. And again, I just feel like I need to throw this out there. I am not a professional. I just know what I've picked up along the way. So to begin with meditation, no, there is no set time limit. You see a lot of people are like discouraged from it because I think they think that you have to sit for an hour and be completely still and silent and not get distracted. And like, eventually maybe you can get there, but I can't sit for an hour, and I've been doing this for a few years. Like I've made it to maybe like 40, 45 minutes, but I always I'm like, all right, that's my limit for right now. I can't go any longer. There are no rules. Like, you do what works for you. So for some people, they need complete silence. They shut the door, they sit in complete silence, and that works for them. Others need music. A lot of people prefer music. There are like an infinite amount of guided meditations on YouTube. Meditation is becoming a very well-known practice. So you can find an endless amount of resources. And again, you just kind of go with what you're pulled towards, give multiple guided meditations a try, and some are going to work for you and some aren't. You're going to, whoever's facilitating it or leading it, you're going to like jive with some people, and others you're going to be like, I'm not really feeling that guy, and that's fine. Like, just go with what you feel. One of my personal favorite resources is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of LS Dream. He's a musical artist. He's in the electronic scene. He has done, last year, he did, I think, 6 weeks of guided meditations. Like, every week he did
Wow.
guided meditation. He has made some incredible soundtracks to meditate to. He has a wonderful, he calls it the Ascension Toolbox, I think. It's on his YouTube channel. And it's a really great resource of, like, if you're in that low spot and you don't know how to get yourself out, he gives some really good exercises that I have used in the past, and they're very effective. Things like journaling, what else he does. But that's one of my favorite, like, I love that human. And so
Sure.
I tell everybody, I'm like, listen to this. So yeah, and you can meditate for, if you're just starting out, you can literally set a timer for 5 minutes and just sit there and just breathe. And that's the key. It's like the breath. You sit down for however long and just breathe. Every breath in and out, every conscious breath is a meditation. So it doesnment matter if you sit down for 5
Right.
minutes or 20 minutes or 2 hours, just any amount of time that you can sit down and just chill out for a second.
Could you elaborate on conscious breath? So what's the difference between a conscious breath and just breathing?
So conscious breath is the awareness. Consciousness to me is awareness. So if you sit down and you tell yourself, okay, take a deep breath, and that's a conscious breath. As opposed to, as we're going through our daily routines and we're doing these things, or we're driving, or we're at work and we're getting all caught up and your mind is racing, and breathing becomes automatic. It's that, what is that? Automatic response. So it's like you're on autopilot. You're not thinking of it. It's like the body will never stop breathing until it's time to. But when you your awareness to that breath, it has a different effect. It will calm your nervous system. It will quiet your mind. Which the point of meditation is not have thoughts. Slow the thoughts down and not analyze them. Meditate. You're always going to have thought that comes in. It just happens. Sure. Rather than the thought coming in, and then you're analyzing and you're trying to process it. You just it. Okay, and let it keep going. That makes sense.
It makes sense, and the way I see it is you get an awareness of the thought and then you let the thought go. You do not create a connection to it. It's a letting go of the thought, which releases you from the emotion that comes along with the thought.
Exactly.
I forget who it was, somebody, an author, somewhere where I read this, but he used the analogy of a stream, the water going down the stream. And I believe he used the leaf as the being, and then the like if there was a leaf floating on the river, the water would be your thoughts and just being the observer.
Just floating on the river of your thoughts.
No. Maybe.
How do you see that analogy, Lauren?
I might have
I like it. How do you see that about a leaf floating on a stream, the leaf being an entity and the stream being the thoughts? What do you see in that analogy, and can you add something to it?
Having a hard time fitting words to it.
Sure.
Well,
Words are escaping.
The way I see it is I see the stream as the thoughts, the entity being the being that's on the stream. And if the leaf being the entity attaches to a thought in the stream, it's going to have a hard time floating along with the river because it has an attachment to the stream of that thought. Whereas when the leaf does not attach to the thought that is the stream, the river, it goes with the flow of the stream and has zero attachment as it lets go of all the thoughts and becomes the awareness of floating on the stream of thoughts. Is the way I see it.
Like that, yeah. If you get attached to one, you can get sucked under easily, quickly.
That's a good analogy.
Go under and drown in those thoughts.
Sure.
so you mentioned this is changing the direction a little bit, but so we covered meditation as one tool in the toolbox that we can use to better our lives and heal, and become our greatest version. What are some of the others that you mentioned? Some other modalities as well.
Yeah, so just another add-on to the meditation. Meditation does not have to look like, again, sitting still. You can lie down, You can do moving meditations, which would be like Tai Chi, or I think Qigong is another one. And I believe yoga is considered a moving meditation where you're like focused, you're in that space of like that Zen space.
I believe it's what you're looking for is body awareness.
Yes. Yeah. So you're like some people cannot, like sitting still just does not work for them. So you can, if you're like with yoga, I've done yoga a little bit, and it's a lot of breath work. You are in that space of awareness, and you're, there's the movement, which allows any energy that might be stuck, anything you're trying to work through, any of those emotional traumas that are stuck in the body will get moved and loosened through those movements. And to combine, if you are able to just sit and meditate, to combine like your meditation practice with your yoga practice, it's go hand in hand.
Okay.
Does nature go along with that anywhere as far as the meditation goes? As far as like, can nature contribute to the meditation? Like if someone were to go out in nature and do breath work there?
You're asking location?
Yeah, like for the people that are listening to this, like is that beneficial to them to go out in nature to meditate?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, yes, because then you're out in it, as opposed to if you're in your house, there's like that block from being like out in the openness, out in the prana, which is life force energy that surrounds, that flows through everything.
Yes.
So when you're out in nature, you are a part. I mean, we're always a part of the greater whole, right? But we kind of forget that, and I think that can be more easily forgotten when we're like holed up in our little weird dark dwellings. A lot of nature, you are, you're touching the ground, you're touching the trees, you're breathing the fresh air. Which is huge. Yeah, absolutely. Like I 100% advise you to go sit outside rather than sit in your house, because you're gonna hear what's going on. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna be in it, and a part of it. So I like, if I'm, weather permitting, when I'm having that day, I go sit outside and like go sit in the trees. I will touch the ground. I will stick my hands and my feet in the dirt. Like I will bury my feet, plant myself in a way. And that is so grounding. That is so like instantly, I feel myself relax. It takes 5 minutes. And as soon as I'm in the woods, in the forest, among the trees, like the trees are my people. That's where I belong, and yeah, it makes a huge difference.
So body language, how does body language have a connection with emotions? And do emotions contribute to the body language that we express? And can that cause trauma in the way we carry ourselves? Can it cause injuries? Do emotions even have an effect on the body?
Emotions. Yeah, emotions have an effect on the body. When you're, it's a what's the word, physiological effect. So when somebody's angry, you look at someone and they're angry or mad, and like you can tell by the way they're holding themselves, by the look on their face, by the way they're acting. You can feel it if you're in tune, if you're empathic, you can, that even at a distance, but you can feel the rage coming off of somebody. Think if somebody's sad, people will, it's like, again, you're holding yourself in a completely different way. Usually like the word that's coming to mind is droopy. You're like sad and hunched over, and again, it's like you get that protective, like you don't want anybody to look at you, and you're looking down. Usually if you're sad, you're looking down at the floor, whereas if you're happy, like out at everybody, and you're like excited and you're open, and you're maybe you're like throwing your hands in the air or laughing. So yeah, emotions definitely have an effect on the body, and especially if you're feeling these negative emotions long periods of time, your emotional state will start to manifest in your physical state. Same with negative thoughts. If you're constantly having negative thoughts, negative beliefs, that shows up in your external world. You start to manifest things that match your vibrational output. Emotional traumas can definitely manifest physically in your body. It'll be, you get pain in different areas, or you'll manifest disease. Why, I feel like that's why so many sick people. People have so much energy stored up in their body. They don't release it. They're not expressive. They don't move. God, we're such a stagnant society. People just sit in front of their fucking computers or their TVs or their video games, and we just sit and we don't do a whole lot, and we get stagnant. And I was just watching this video that I sent you, Dennis, earlier about energy it's a universal law. This video that I sent Dennis earlier today was about universal laws. And I don't remember which law this is, but it states the energy can only move forward or cannot stagnate.
I can elaborate on that. It's energy can only be transferred. It can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yes, that was part of it. Was like that was part of it. But
so when you're saying people are holding this energy inside, the energy is still present, but it's not going anywhere. Or rather, it may be going somewhere. So you're watching a TV or you're using a computer, the energy is going into the device. Whereas you could be using that energy to better your life and be making changes. Where I guess what I'm getting at is just to be aware of where your energy is at. And I want to give it back to you about when you were saying how the energy is inside of you. How do people gain awareness of their energy, and also how do they find a compelling place to place their energy?
So how to become aware of what they're holding? Again, meditation. Meditation will draw you inside of yourself, and you can bring your awareness to different parts of your body. Uh, meditation that I do often is like a check-in, where you check in with each of the chakras in your body. And going the wrong way, you start at the root, work your way up. And so, like, I'll get into my meditation and bring my awareness to my root chakra and spend some time there. And you just allow yourself to feel into it. And some people will get visualize things, maybe an image pops up. Get smells, or some people will get mostly. For me, everything is like, I don't have a very visual mind, but I feel everything. Or it's a knowing. It's just like,
I believe that's called empathy.
Yeah.
When you feel.
Yeah.
So you'd be an empathic person.
again, I get into my meditation, bring the awareness to a specific spot, and it doesn't have to just be the chakras. You can bring your awareness to your shoulder, or to your legs, to your hips, to your feet. And you just bring the awareness there, and then observe what you feel. Observe what comes up. A memory, could be an emotion, could be a physical feeling. A variant of different things. That's how you gain the awareness of what is in your body. And oftentimes, and gain an awareness of like where it's coming from. Why am I so? And again, you ask yourself the questions like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Maybe it's anger. Why am I so angry? Once you start asking the questions, you'll start to receive the answers. And meditation is, you can ask the questions, and meditation is a way to open yourself up to receive.
That's a very good point.
Something else that I want to add as well is, for those of the people that are listening, is just to make sure that they know that there's a mind, a body, and a spirit, and that we're not our thoughts. Because I think that's a huge thing, as far as even like, can the foods that we eat make a difference on the thoughts that we think? And
I don't know if it would necessarily be on
or how we feel and our awareness.
but what you consume, what you put into your body, has everything to do with how you feel, and how your body functions. If you're eating whole foods, vegetables, grains, natural, organic foods, homegrown. If you can grow your own food, that's the best way to go. So you know what's going into it. You can find non-GMO seeds, grow your own foods, don't load them with a bunch of chemicals, and consume that. That's going to be a million times better than going to McDonald's and eating whatever the hell they put in that. That's not food. Like, that's not food. The more processed food you eat, the worse off you're going to be, because it's going through a process, first of all, to be made. But even if they say, oh, it's natural ingredients, well, there's still a process that those ingredients have to go through to be formed into whatever it is that you're pulling out of this box that you're eating. So natural whole foods are going to be way better for your body. That's what we're meant to eat, are things that come directly from the ground or from a tree, however it grows. And the body is meant to process. So the way better off you're going to be. Your organs are going to function at a higher capacity because they're not having to work so hard to break down ingredients that don't come from nature.
Sure. Our bodies protect us from pain. Like, why is that? And is there a way, is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? What are your thoughts on how our body protects us from pain and how that relates to healing?
Well, pain sucks. The body doesn't, especially like physical pain, your body is going to try to protect you from any sort of physical pain, because the pain response is a warning that something is not right. If you break a bone, that's very painful. That's your body saying, hey, something's not right here. We need to fix this. And so you're, like Dennis pointed out a few minutes ago, you got not just your physical body, got your mental body, your energetic body, your physical body.
Spiritual,
thank you. and, and so your emotional body is the same thing. Emotional pain is just as damaging as physical pain. Sometimes it can be worse, in some circumstances it can be worse. Learn to protect yourself from emotional pain and emotional trauma as well. What was part of your question?
basically the protection, how our body protects us from pain, and how healing has anything to do with that.
Okay, so that's a broad spectrum of how we protect ourselves from the emotional pain. Some people will completely, I think in severe cases, people will completely disassociate. They will just like shut off, remove themselves completely. That's a we can still shut down or avoid without completely disassociating. And I think that's a very common response, is to just like look the other way. It's not happening.
It's kind of turning your awareness away from the pain in a way.
Yeah.
Wow.
We will develop these defense mechanisms or ways of responding to situations that aren't exactly healthy. That pain. So we will just like sabotage situations completely, relationships. People sabotage their relationships all the time, unconsciously, because they don't want to deal with the pain of that relationship possibly not working out. So they'll just end it before they are given the chance to get hurt. That's a big one. And we do that with jobs, not just romantic relationships. We do that with friendships. We do that with family members. We do that where we have a chance of being successful.
Interesting.
so we don't have to go through the pain of it not working out or it being ripped away from us. Like, I might as well not even try because, what's the point?
That's an interesting concept. So in that way, you would have a connection to the outcome, and your connection to the outcome would cause you to change the present, because of how you see the outcome.
So sometimes people will create an outcome for a situation that isn't even happening yet. We'll make up a story that ends terribly and there's no basis for it, but we're like, well, I'm not doing that. And we completely don't even allow ourselves a chance to have this thing, have this relationship, have the job, have whatever, because
I believe that ties directly into fear, and fear is spelled F-E-A-R, and fear is false evidence that appears real. I'll repeat that again. Fear is false evidence that appears real. Fear is false evidence that appears real. What are your comments on that? How does that tie in from protection from pain? How does fear have an effect on the body? And how is fear playing a part in the global pandemic that's going on at the moment?
false evidence appearing real. Well, that is pretty much exactly what I just said. This question and create a story in our mind about it. Like you said, usually based from fear. We're afraid to get hurt. We're afraid to be rejected. We're afraid to be told no, or afraid of a lot of things. And that fear creates that story that I was saying, that stops us from even attempting anything. And we're playing into the pandemic.
Your thoughts, how you feel about that?
There's so much to it. Like, where do you even begin? It's hard to. People are terrified of this thing, and
So I have something that I want to bring up. So they're terrified of this thing, but the very fact that they're terrified of it, kind of comes back to that it does not already exist in their life at the moment. So they're terrified of this thing that is not currently present in their lives at this moment. So why is that?
my opinion is that the root of all fear, when you look at someone and you break down their fears and you start getting to the roots and the roots and the roots, the fear of death. People are afraid of death. And this thing that's this virus that's happening, I do air quotes, but like I know it's an actual thing. But like,
So they're afraid of death, but stats show that 98% of people that get the virus survive the virus. So why are people afraid
But
of
but
the
the
virus?
highlight is on the people who are dying. Even though it's just a small, like on the big scale, in the
Sure,
billions of people that are on the planet,
sure.
what, a couple 100,000 have died? But the focus is there. And then they're telling you they're telling you you're a shitty person if you don't think it's a terrible thing that these people have died. Even if it was only 10 people, they're going to say you're a piece of shit because you don't care about those 10 people that lost their lives. When, walking out your front door is just as deadly. Like, we run the same risk when we step off of our front porch in the morning. We're all running the same risk of fucking dying that day. Like, and yeah, there are factors that might make you more likely to die, but like, we're all running that risk.
So you mentioned that the attention is on the people that are dying. So a solution might be to be aware of where we place the attention, because we know that where attention goes, energy flows. So would a solution be to place our attention on something other than the people that are dying, such as on our own lives and what we're doing in the moment? Is that a solution to this? What is a solution that you can recommend to people that are placing their attention on the deaths of the people of the coronavirus?
And obviously, like, yes, it is tragic that people have lost their lives. Like,
Absolutely.
that's an unfortunate thing, no matter the circumstances. But instead of focusing there and getting out of your mind and hiding in your house and not living your life, like, do what you can. Keep yourself healthy. You don't have to live in fear. Just make different choices. If you're afraid of getting sick, don't do things that are going to weaken your immune system. Like, do things that are going to boost your immune system. Take vitamins, take supplements, eat whole fucking foods. Stop going to McDonald's and shoveling cookies and fucking fake burgers in your mouth. Okay? Feed yourself good foods. Give yourself nutrients. Feed your mind. Feed your soul. Do things that are
instead of watching television, which tells lies to your vision, instead of going on Facebook, just try putting your face in a book today. It's a different concept.
Something I was just thinking about while you were talking is going back to the mind, the body, and the spirit is, so we need to feed the mind, the body, and the spirit. And like you said, books for the mind, good food for the body, for the spirit, maybe a spiritual book, going meditating, getting an energy healing session.
So it's not a one-step thing, is what you're saying.
Yes, in order for us to fully be balanced, I feel that constant energy has to be focused on things that add value to our lives, to where we can step in our own power, and instead of fearing what's out there, we actually start creating through our own creative, and we start tapping into our abilities.
Yes.
Correct. And adding to that, like about not living in fear. So when you don't live in something, you need to replace it with something else. So what should people be living in if they're not living in fear?
Love. Live in love.
Love. So that's what people need to live in, as opposed to fear.
Now,
The opposite of fear is unconditional love.
Can you elaborate on unconditional love? Because I feel like society has really really fucked that word up.
Yes. Yeah. Again, this is one of my other favorite topics. Okay, so love, unconditional love is not restricted just to a romantic relationship. You know, like there, we take this. I don't even know where to go with this. There's so much that I want to say in it all at once. All you need is love. That's not just a fucking song that somebody wrote. Like that's a literal. That is words to live by. Love is all. Like love is the highest vibration in the universe. Love and gratitude are the two highest vibrations. And like we come into this world and we as children, you see children and they love everything, like everything. They run up to anybody, they'll go up to strangers and they're just like, hey, and they want to talk and they just want to know you.
Start dancing for no reason.
Yes, they're so happy because they just love everything. They're just like emanating love. And then as we get older, we're taught to take that love and contain it, put it into a box, only give it to certain people, and only give it in a certain way. And that's bullshit. You can love anybody. We are meant to love anybody. Love is a free flowing current. We should never put boundaries on it. You should have love for everyone. And love is different than sex. You do not have to have sex to love a person. Those are two completely different energies. Love are meant to love every single soul on the planet. And then that gets into a whole other topic of like, well, what about the shitty people that are fucking raping and doing all these bad things? And you know what? If those people were loved properly when they were young, they wouldn't be doing the terrible things that they're doing. Anybody that's acting out of hatred is because there's a lack of love.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a very profound statement.
Hatred is the absence of love. And when people are hurt, you know, it all stems from when we're young and we're not loved enough, we're not hugged enough, we're not held enough by. Sorry, hang on. Not wrapped up in the cord. And then we act out because we don't know how to act from a place of love because we're not shown love when we're young. And those people need the most love. The ones who are raping and murdering and kidnapping.
So
And
in that case, putting a person like that in a jail cell or restricting them from love is about the worst possible thing you could do for a person in that situation.
yes, it's a touchy subject. Those people should definitely, there obviously should be justice. You can't just like slap on the wrist and be like, don't do that again. But if they were given an environment in which they could heal their traumas, learn to nurture themselves, and have a support system to help nourish them, a lot of change. It would be a lot less repetitive convictions, repetitive criminals. Had a system in which they could perform, in a sense. That would be life changing for those people.
Do you think that those people lack a self-love at
Absolutely,
that point?
absolutely, because they were taught. Again, they were taught at a young age that they're not lovable because they didn't receive that love. You know.
Because when you were saying that, my mind was going to. So they get in these situations, and then if they start self-loving themselves and loving themselves again, what happens is they open up their creative abilities and they start creating and stepping into their power and transforming their lives.
Learning, it's learning self-love, and usually takes, forming a connection with your higher self and your higher power. Like you'll notice in stories about, they do stories on criminals who like turn themselves around while they were in jail. I would say every single one of them formed a relationship with God while they were in jail.
With themselves.
With God. They're whoever they perceive God to be.
Sure.
They either picked up a Bible or started studying another form of religion, started meditating, started whatever it is. Like those are factors. Anybody that I've ever experienced who is very lost, myself included, when I was struggling with addiction and going through my dark days, I had no concept of God. I had no concept of spirituality. I didn't have a relationship with any of that. And with the people, my friends who I still encounter to this day, who are struggling, who are lost, who are suffering, they don't have that relationship either. They don't have a relationship with a higher power. They don't believe in a higher power. They don't believe in anything, or they don't know what they don't know what they believe. Most of the people who I'm referring to, they were brought up in a very strong religious household as a child, and then began to question that as they got older, and then just decided it was all bullshit. They're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. This is all bullshit, and I don't believe any of it. And now you try and talk to them about a God or about spirituality, and they're like, absolutely not. They want nothing to do with that conversation because they can't get the idea of whatever they were brought up in out of their minds. And I know some people who were brought up Catholic, I know some who were brought up Christian, and they're like, absolutely not.
So during your time of addiction and not knowing God, what gave you the faith to keep going, and what basically just what kept you going during those times?
That's a really, really good question. So I was in and out of jail a couple of times. My longest stay in jail was for 13 months, and I did a lot of writing. I am a writer and a journal all the time, and like to keep myself sane, I just filled notebooks. I just wrote, like I would just do like stream of consciousness, basically. I just was writing anything that came to mind. I was writing like, fuck all these people in this room right now. Like, this is ridiculous. I was writing anything that came to mind. Any emotions that I was feeling, any thoughts I was having about what was going on with my family on the outside. I just wrote everything down. And
Do you feel like that's a form of healing?
journaling, yes. Writing, absolutely. You're taking your thoughts, you're taking your thoughts and like putting them, down. You're literally removing them from your brain, putting them on paper in front of you. And when if you're writing affirmations, or if you're writing something that you want to manifest, if you're writing a vision for your future, like you're putting that into physical form. And that's step one. It's there, it's on paper, and then you're like, that makes it real. That takes it from just an energy, just a thought, and it makes it real. In reference to negative thoughts, rather than allowing them to just swim around in your head and swirl around and you just keep dwelling on these thoughts, you are taking it out. You're getting rid of it. And then from there, you have, obviously I couldn't do this in jail, but a practice that I do at home now is if there's something that I want to let go of, I write it down on a piece of paper and burn it. I have a little fire ceremony. I take this thing and I say, I want to release this. I don't want it anymore. Take it from me, and I burn it, and then it's gone. And the physical act of doing that, of seeing it burn up and disappear, helps you, mental body, your energetic body.
Do you say anything while you burn that? Like, do you say that you are grateful for that experience and you honor it and then you release it? Do you ever? Okay.
Yep. And that can be, it doesn't mean, it can be whatever comes to your mind. You don't have to say those secret words. But yes, like give gratitude for it, give it thanks, and say, I don't need this anymore. This is no longer serving me, and I want to get rid of it. And then you get rid of it. But back to what I was saying. I wrote it all down. And it was interesting because a couple years later, I was like doing some cleaning and came across some of my notebooks, reading through everything that I wrote. And it was like, despite all of the anger and the negativity and all the like darkness, still wrote down.
Could you say that again? You cut out for a little bit there.
There were still little bits of hope. Writings, I was, even though I was in this, like, I was in an awful, I was like, talk about being in the shadows. I was in the fucking shadow, and it was a very dark.
There was still hope during the shadow part.
Yes, and I was, I did a lot of reading in jail too, and I would write down quotes And writing down there was a lot of positive things that I was writing down. And it was just an interesting contrast to see as I looked through all of this later on. Really interesting to see that, like, in the darkness, I could still see that light shining through. And I don't know what gave me that hope, or, like, I don't know what it was that kept me going. It was just this desire to get out, go back to my family, go back to my real friends, not the ones who I was hanging out and using with, but I wanted to see, I wanted to see the people that I love. And my mom was there with me through the whole thing. My mom is a saint, dude. She just would come and visit me every week, and I would call her almost every day and talk to her. And she just, like, she walks me through everything in my life when I need help. And so, yeah, that's mostly what it was. It's just like wanting to see the people that I love. And other than that, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got home. And for a long time, I didn't know what was going to happen, because the drugs are weird. Like, heroin gives you a very physical addiction. Like, you get physically ill when you don't have it, right? With crack, I didn't so much have that physical addiction, but it was a mental thing. So for the 13 months that I was in there, about 12 and a half of those months, I was still battling in my head. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, like, stay away from this when I go home. It was still in my head all the time. I was just like, could not. It was the weirdest thing. I really struggled to get over that. But then there was this guy that I was seeing. He was the one who introduced me to all of this. And we were still talking to each other a little bit while I was in there. So I had been talking to him on the phone one day, and this was just a couple weeks before I was released. We were on the phone, and I don't even remember what the conversation was, but he said something that made me so, so, so mad, and I just was like, fuck you, and I hung up the phone on him, and I was so out of my mind with rage. I don't even know what he said to me. So I sat down, I wrote him a note, I wrote him a letter, and I told him everything, and I was like, I don't ever want to see you again. I don't ever want to hear from you. Do not contact me. Don't ever come to my house. Don't message me. Lose my number. Forget we ever knew each other. Do not come into my life. I said, I'm not letting you do this to me anymore. I put that in an envelope. I sealed it up. I threw it out under the door. So you could push your letter under the door for them to come pick it up and take it to the mail. And once I did that, like, I just went to my bed and I sobbed. I just cried forever. I just let it all out. And after that, I felt so much better. And it was after that I started to think, I'm going to be okay when I go home. And
it was a severed connection.
yeah. And it was that decision of, like, no more. I'm not.
That's because you love yourself.
The decision is a very important point there as well.
Yes.
So the decision in oneself to do something is what makes something happen.
Yep. And I feel like once you make that decision, once you make that commitment, the universe conspires to make it happen with you.
Sure. So you mentioned, do you think of yourself as a light worker? What is a light worker to you? How do you explain that word?
Light worker
How does
is,
someone know if they're a light worker?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How does someone know if they're a light worker? Just going with my other two questions. Like, what is it? How does someone know if they are one?
So a light worker is literally a being of light. Excuse me. To me, a light worker is someone who holds a beacon of light for others to get through the darkness. You know, darkness is everywhere. Everywhere. And a light worker is someone who brings light to the planet. Like in my mind, I see just a beacon of, it's like someone who's connected to the higher realms, higher planes of existence. And I just think of like this channel of light coming down into their body, into my body. If you like envision someone sitting there meditating and just being this open channel for light to come in, like that's literally, I walk around all day and repeat in my head, like, I am a channel of divine light, and I open myself to receive that, and then I give it to it, like everybody. I imagine myself like just pushing it out to everyone who needs it. I envision myself distributing this light to everyone who needs it. And you can do that through meditation. You can do that through your actions. I do everything I can to live in love. I don't want to live in fear. I want to live in love. I show unconditional love as much as I can keep myself consciously aware of. And so, like holding the light and giving the light, bringing the light to others is bringing like positivity, encouragement, love, support. That to me is light. So many people are lost and struggling, and just reach out to those people, and I try to tell them that they are loved and that they are stronger than they think, and they are capable of more than they think they are, more than they know. Like, we all have incredible capabilities, and we're so shut off to it. And me, light workers are the ones who are not perpetuating fear. They perpetuate love and positivity. And there's like this spiritual community about love and light. It's not all love and light, but we can try to.
I feel like that's a direction, kind of like a place to set your attention to.
And also, a lot of the people that are listening are probably light workers.
I would think so. If they're drawn to your, I would think so. I feel like your crowd of people would be.
And
they may not know it yet, but.
And it's the lessons that we learn and overcoming the darkness. When we face that darkness is when we start shining the light on ourselves, or no.
On ourselves and radiating it.
Yes. One more thing before we end this podcast, Lauren. We mentioned energy healing. I believe you're a very powerful energy healer. I know that for a fact. Where I'll put your contact information in the description of the YouTube video. Is there anything else you would like to add as far as things that you can help people with or the listeners with, as far as what you know and what you can do?
If anyone wants more information on anything, or like if anybody wants to continue this conversation, any of this conversation outside of this, I am open to it. Like you said, my contact information will be in the information. So yeah, like I'm open. I'm always open to have conversations, to share what I know, to talk about my experiences. I feel like that's the best way for anybody to help anybody else, is by drawing from your own personal experiences. God, if there's anybody who is stuck in active addiction right now and is struggling to get out of that, like, absolutely reach out to me. I've been there and I know what it's like, and it fucking sucks. And like, anybody, anybody's interested in meditation, like, I can share what I know. I'm open to guiding a meditation. And then as far as the energy healing, that is something that can be done at a distance. Distance is an illusion, just like time. So if we have this virtual space, like, energetically, we're in the same space. We are with each other right now. So I'm open to doing healing. I will meet with you on Zoom. If you're local to me by chance, like, we can meet and we can do some homework. And then again, outside of energy healing, just with the healing work in general, any questions? If anybody has any questions, just message me. Open.
Awesome. I really appreciate you being a part of this discussion today, Lauren, and taking time out of your schedule.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again, because like I feel like we only scratched the surface of what, at least for me, like what I wanted to ask you, and so, but we'll do another one soon. We'll
pre-plan better. We'll like write things down.
Yeah.
We'll have like an outline.
Alrighty. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast experience. Peace.